Could we all please rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis.
Very good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the City of Perth August 2024 agenda briefing session. I'll formally declare the meeting open at exactly 5 p.m. Can you believe it is August already? I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Whadjuk Noongar people of Western Australia, and pay my respects to elders past and present. It is a privilege to be standing on Whadjuk Noongar land. And CEO, can I ask you now, please, while we're all up, to recite the prayer?
Almighty God, under whose providence we hold responsibility for this city, grant us wisdom to understand its present needs, foresight to anticipate its future growth, and grace to serve our fellow citizens with integrity and selfless devotion. And to thee be all blessing and glory forever. Amen.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please be seated. Okay. All right. Well, firstly, I will begin with our favourite, Councillor Gobbett, Council Policy 1.4, without looking at the sheet of paper. This meeting is being live streamed and recording will be made available on the city's website following the meeting. So it doesn't matter where you are, you will be able to catch up with it. Let's go through attendance and apologies and leave of absence. So that's item 3 tonight. With us tonight, the Deputy Lord Mayor, Clyde Bevan, Councillor Raj Doshi, Councillor Brent Fleeton, not with us at this point. Haven't got apologies, have we? So he may be on his way, or he may not. Councillor Liam Gobbett, Councillor David Gonsalves, and Councillor Victor Coe. Councillor Catherine Leeser is an apology this evening. She's representing the City of Perth at the World Energy Cities Partnership Conference, and Councillor Reynolds is also an apology this evening. There are no elected members currently on a leave of absence, is that correct? Yeah. And I'll remind councillors to please submit any leave of absences prior to the next ordinary council meeting. That's next week. In addition to our own council team, I welcome the Chief Executive Officer, other officers, and any members of the public or media in attendance. Big crowd tonight, magnificent. If you're watching online, hello to you as well. Hold the announcements for next week, but I will say, possibly for the benefit only of our media officer, Graham Mason, and Dean Peters, who I see in the room, in a nod to retro round in the AFL, I left my tie at home today, and the team on the 11th floor managed to dig out this beauty from the cupboards. So it's like retro round at council tonight. I'm very proud of this. My late father used to wear a tie not too dissimilar. I think he'd be very proud of me looking down at the moment. All righty. Disclosures of interests. CEO, do we have an encyclopedia full of them?
We do tonight, Lord Mayor. The following interests have been disclosed. Councillor Liam Gobbett has disclosed an impartiality interest in item 12.2 as he has attended events held by Perth Festival as the city's representative in accordance with the attendance at events policy. No association has been formed and his disclosure represents an impartiality interest only. Councillor Raj Doshi has disclosed an impartiality interest in item 12.2 as she has attended events representing the City of Perth as an elected member. Councillor Raj Doshi has disclosed an impartiality interest in item 12.3 as she is on the board of the Blue Room Theatre in a volunteer position. I have disclosed an impartiality interest in item 12.3 as Marina Hogan was a board member of the Rottnest Island Authority when I was Executive Director. Councillor Liam Gobbett has disclosed an impartiality interest in item 12.3 as he is a member of the Blue Room Theatre. He has attended events held by WA Opera, PICF and Strut as the city's representative in accordance with the attendance at events policy. No associations have been formed and this represents an impartiality interest only. And CEO Ryan Tafe is a personal friend of his. Councillor David Gonsalves has disclosed impartiality interests in item 12.3 as Hukit Kur Khalsa, Executive Director of the Blue Room, is known to them via Blue Room and Perth Festival events where they have attended as the city's representative in accordance with the events policy. Co-directors Sophie Burgoyne and James O'Hara of Strut Dance are known to them by way of attendance at Perth Festival events where they have been city representative in accordance with the events policy, and Executive Director Graham Lovelock and Ali Welburn have been known to them over many years in their community social and performing arts capacity. They have also previously attended Perth Cabaret Festival events. You have disclosed a direct financial interest in item 12.4 as West Australia Newspaper Limited is owned by Seven West Media and Seven West Media is your employer. Councillor Liam Gobbett has disclosed an impartiality interest in item 12.4 as employees of Seven West Australia Newspapers Limited are known to him personally. The Deputy Lord Mayor Bevan has an impartiality interest in item 12.3 under arts and culture sponsorship because, he is aware of Marina is a committee member of the
Dr. Coe wrote that for you, did he?
Friends Restaurant, some customer of Friends Restaurant some 15 years ago. My apologies for that.
We're going to ask about how the food was that night.
And Councillor Coe has declared a proximity interest in item 11.1A and 11B, draft Terrace Road character area local planning reports. My primary residence is on Terrace Road. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
That's it, isn't it?
That is.
Thank you very much, CEO and officers and councillors. Very thorough and comprehensive. Full disclosure, as you can see. All righty, so we move to. Firstly, I'll ask: Are there any further disclosures from the floor, councillors? Anyone else? What would have been on the menu 15 years ago? Do you think? Okay. Item 6 is public participation. 6.1 is public questions. So this is item 6 and 6.1. Now, public question time will be held at the ordinary council meeting next week. 6.2 is deputations. CEO, another moment to shine. Do we have any deputations?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Right. Yes, Lord Mayor. 2 deputations have been received in relation to item 12.2 and 3 deputations have been received in relation to item 12.3.
Thank you very much, CEO. Okay, so I'll just remind all of those who are here to give deputations tonight, we have a 5-minute limit for individual deputations. I think you all understand that. We do start the clock and I'll give you a little 30-second warning. And then you'll be carried out forcefully if you continue to speak. Oh, really? I will now invite Inspector Jeremy Peterson, representing WA Police, and Assistant Commissioner John Broomhall, representing DFES, who are speaking for the recommendation in item 12.2 to please come forward. So, gentlemen, if you will, if only one is speaking, just one is fine, or you can both come together. We love our police and emergency services working closely together. Makes us all feel very safe. So name and address if you could, and then time will be yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Inspector Jeremy Peterson of 99 Plain Street, East Perth. Good evening, Lord Mayor, councillors and members of the gallery. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Inspector Jeremy Peterson. I'm a police inspector with the WA Police Force. I'm also a director of United Light Sports Federation Limited, the non-for-profit established for the planning and delivery of the World Police and Fire Games in 2027. I'm joined this evening by Assistant Commissioner John Broomhall, Department of Fire and Emergency Services, and together we stand united in support of the City of Perth's recommendation to approve the sponsorship application for the 2027 World Police and Fire Games. The World Police and Fire Games is a renowned biennial event uniting law enforcement and emergency services personnel globally since 1985, promoting fitness, camaraderie and community engagement. Perth was awarded the hosting rights for the 22nd edition of the Games following a successful bid supported by the state government through Tourism WA, the WA Police Force, Department of Fire and Emergency Services, Corrections, Venues West and the City of Perth. Scheduled from 12 to 21 of March in 2027, the event features 65 sports across 40 venues in the Perth metropolitan area with key infrastructure, events and ceremonies scheduled to take place within the City of Perth. Beyond athletic competition, the Games will include ceremonial and memorial events, social engagement and tourism opportunities showcasing Perth's world-class sporting infrastructure. Hosting the Games represents the City of Perth with a significant economic and tourism opportunity. Anticipating 8,500 participants, accompanied by 20,000 travellers, the event is poised to invigorate local economies across multiple sectors. This international event represents a significant opportunity for our city, and I want to outline why it's important for us and you, the broader community. First and foremost, the World Police and Fire Games will bring unparalleled visibility around the City of Perth. We've seen with past international events such as the FIFA Women's World Cup, our city can shine on a global stage. Hosting the World Police and Fire Games will not only spotlight our world-class facilities, but also demonstrate our capacity and capability to manage and host major international sporting events with excellence, like the 2029 World Masters Games, already scheduled, and the 2030 Gay Games in Perth, a finalist of 7 potential cities currently. The Games will also provide a substantial economic boost. The Tourism Council of Western Australia project the event will raise or inject over $55 million into the economy, with benefits through tourism, hospitality and local spending. Hotels, restaurants and retail business will experience increased activity, which translates to jobs creation, economic growth for Perth.
Well, good evening, Lord Mayor, councillors and members. I'm John Broomhall. I'm Assistant Commissioner at DFIS. My address is 20 Stockton Bend, Cockburn Central. It's an honour to stand here alongside my esteemed emergency services colleague in support of the 2027 World Police and Fire Games sponsorship application. The 2027 Games is a remarkable opportunity to showcase the skills and dedication of WA's emergency services personnel, both career and volunteer, on a global stage right here in Perth. The event promises to be an extraordinary sporting spectacle, celebrating our emergency service workers alongside their international counterparts. Supporting the World Police and Fire Games allows the City of Perth to honour the vital role that law enforcement and emergency services professionals play in ensuring our safety and security. The Games will not only highlight the achievements, but also foster a sense of pride and unity within our community. Just as the Lord Mayor's Distress Relief Fund has been crucial in alleviating distress and hardship during disasters and emergencies in Western Australia, the World Police and Fire Games will further reinforce the city's values of solidarity and support. By bringing the world's attention to Perth and celebrating our emergency services, the Games will strengthen the very principles that guide our relief efforts and community support initiatives. Additionally, the visibility and outreach of the Games provides a valuable platform for promoting emergency services to the public. Through exhibitions, demonstrations, community engagement activities, we'll have the chance to raise awareness and promote the respective agencies, a key aspect of our legacy mission. In conclusion, hosting the 2027 World Police and Fire Games offers a remarkable opportunity for the City of Perth. This event will not only enhance the city's global profile and stimulate economic growth, but will also celebrate the dedication of our first responders. Importantly, it aligns the city's ongoing commitment to community support and resilience. By supporting this recommendation, you're investing in the city's future and reinforcing the values that make Perth a remarkable place to live and work, while showcasing to the global audience our unique capacity to stage some of the largest events from around the world. Thank you, Lord Mayor and councillors, for your time and consideration. We urge you to support the City of Perth's recommendation to support and partner with the 2027 World Police and Fire Games. We're open to any questions or discussions that you might have regarding the Games. Thank you.
Thank you, Inspector. Thank you, Assistant Commissioner. Magnificent precision, although we would expect it from you guys, I know. But bang on 5 minutes, incredible effort. Unbelievable. And had to juggle 2 speakers. That's well done. Very well done. Councillors, if you've got any questions in relation to the deputation, opportunity is about to arise. But a reminder for councillors, if there's any questions of the admin in relation to the deputations relating to this item, please hold those until the item is tabled for questions. I might go first, either Inspector or Assistant Commissioner. Do we know venues? I'm sure you're in the consideration phase at the moment without having necessarily locked any in, but I guess we're particularly interested to know what sort of events might be within the City of Perth.
Yeah, well, there are a total of 13 events currently proposed. All these proposed venues are subject to the World Police and Fire Games Federation's endorsement. At this stage, we hope to earmark a number of combat sports at Perth Convention Centre. We hope to utilise Langley Park on what's been tabled Super Sunday for a large number of fire and emergency services specific sports, with 2 6-storey towers constructed for the participation of fire-specific sports. The traditional stair race will be in one of our tallest buildings in Perth. We're utilising the WACA for the T20 cricket component for the finals. And we are also utilising Kings Park and the surrounding Perth entryway in and out of Kings Park for cycling road races.
Yeah, tremendous. Okay, there'll be exciting news. There'll be new facilities at Langley Park by then. So we're very hopeful that you'll you'll be able to utilise those. Quite an extensive renovation going on down there at the moment. Was there another one? Was there something else?
No, we're just saying the PCSC will also be the hub of the trade show that will be prior to the event, and also the games registration area. And we hope to use Stirling Gardens as the centrepiece and village for our 8,500 athletes and 20,000 travellers coming.
Okay, great, excellent. Is there opening, closing ceremony, that sort of thing? Are you using?
There is.
And is that it?
There's 4 venues for discussion at this point in time. Optus Stadium, RAC Arena for a closed venue.
Yes.
HBF Park.
Yeah.
And we're toying with something quite specific, possibly up at Kings Park, overlooking the whole city of Perth, something unique and different.
Like the sound of that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you from me. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Doshi.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I just have some questions around the federal support that's pending. So do you have an idea of how much that is? And are you relying on that, or can you do without? And have you actually secured the venue for 2027, or is it still sort of dependent on funding, etc.? Thank you.
So the last question was secured the event. The event has been secured, so that is a tick. The federal funding part is currently up for mid-year budget considerations. Our request to federal government is $6.5 million to match the state government contribution. That was always planned in the commitment from Tourism WA for our event. So it is currently up before 6 ministries and out-of-ministry portfolios at federal level, being emergency services, home affairs, foreign affairs, trade and tourism, sport. So mid-year budget, November. We're also seeking election commitments from the opposition party as a very mindful of pending elections coming up. So we'll try to do that. And then we've also got next year's May budget. So we're working off a deadline for May next year for federal funding. And we're speaking to state government now to facilitate the requirement to get us through the next year.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Coe.
Hey, thanks for coming in to provide your deputation. I'll be honest, this is the first time I've heard of this type of event. Is this something that's held every 4 years? And is it like the Olympics where there are like, pre-qualifiers, you have to have reached a certain level to be able to compete in this?
Yeah,
is it something similar to that?
So it's a biannual event held every 2 years. 2 years. Yeah, we'll be the 22nd edition of the World Police and Fire Games. For the skill set of participants, I would say across the 65 sports, there is a very wide cross-section. Some are highly competitive in your team sports events. There is a number of fire-specific sports, which I alluded to. There's a number of shooting-specific sports for police, team sports, individual sports, but then there is also a component of social sports. So we're not chasing elitism, we're chasing camaraderie, fellowship and participation. So there is a number of sports that will get people to come, whether it be social sports like darts, which can be highly competitive, or swimming, a number of cornhole activities, a good cross-section to cater for everyone.
Councillors. Councillor Gonsalves.
Thanks for the presentation. You mentioned there about a trade show, and I'm just wondering what other opportunities or what the trade show would look like, and whether other opportunities like an academic conference or other tie-ins to other type of events that might integrate with what other organisations are. Yeah,
I can talk to that. Yeah. So the trade show is proposed before the event, and we're currently in conversations with Australian New Zealand Police Association to hold their annual conference here in Perth prior to. That will bring commissioners from across Australia and New Zealand here for the opening ceremony. So it's a way of making sure they're here for something like this and supporting and also just showcasing their own agencies. Fire and Emergency Services have a number of their own conferences that they have. We're at that current stage of trying to navigate where we can ducktail in between certain things. To answer your point about education, we're currently in conversations with UWA and Murdoch University around some of their participation of students and their involvement in our event. So those things obviously take a little bit of time because we want to be on the curriculum years in advance. So we're kind of working through those processes right now.
Just to understand that a bit more, that you're basically saying that this provides a platform for even more opportunities to have those dialogues with the commissioners and other
It does.
and students and others.
Yeah. The thought behind the trade show was to open up and leveraging off Councillor Coe's comments, like not hearing about the War, Police and Fire games. The trade show is an opportunity to bring people and introduce them to the games, and vice versa. The games hopefully introduces people to the trade show. So by putting them next to ducktailing them in, it provides people the opportunity to go, oh wow, this is another part of our occupation that I can actually experience.
And if I can ask, does that dovetail into the flow-on community benefits, I guess, in terms of the general benefit to promote the police force and
Yeah.
in terms of recruitment and...
So one of the key legacy pieces for us is recruitment and retention across all agencies in the emergency services, and most notably Fire and Emergency Services. In Western Australia alone, they've got over 26,000 volunteers. That is an ageing volunteer workforce. By staging this kind of event, we're hopefully trying to encourage a younger volunteer base to join the emergency services and stay with it and see what other opportunities exist because they are volunteers in the emergency services. So a lasting legacy piece, yes.
One from me. I've read it somewhere and I can't remember. What time of the year is it?
March 12 to 21.
March. Thank you. March 2027.
Yes.
Councillor Doshi, follow up? Or
Thank you,
another
Lord
one,
Mayor.
rather?
Very quickly, will these all be ticketed events, or will there be some free events in there for the community and the surrounding areas?
Yeah, the vast majority are free events. Yeah, we're really trying to, and that's part of the Optus Stadium challenge, is to get that 60,000 people full if we want to use it to that capacity. But there's no ticketing events. If anyone wants to come and watch, they're more than welcome to. And the Super Sunday, we're hoping to get in excess of 30,000 community members down there for that day.
Gentlemen, just before the buzzer, Councillor Gonsalves.
Thanks. In the documentation, it was mentioned around the athletes of the athletes village. Just wondering if there's any information on where that might be or what that would look like.
Yes, Stirling Gardens is the proposed venue. We had earmarked it to be outside PCEC, but having been around the world and seen the size and scale of what is required of a village, it would be more appropriate in Stirling Gardens. It's central to Perth, it's on the waterfront, it showcases our best features, and walking distance to most of the hotels where 8,500 participants will be staying.
Great. And just lastly, you spoke there about legacy. I was just interested that you mentioned other events, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that showcasing Perth as a destination for sporting events, and being able to have that as a legacy to be able to show that Perth is in the game when it comes to hosting major events like this.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of this point. We've met with the Masters Games team, and we really understand that our games is an opportunity for them to use it as a test event. What works, what doesn't work for us, hopefully will work for them, so that we refine our skills and abilities to deliver mass participation multi-sport events in Perth. And we've most recently just had meetings with the Gay Games team, who are currently going through their bid book process. And when you actually look on the website to see who's left in that bid phase, it puts Perth in a very good light with some cities around the world to say that, yeah, Perth has been considered as a finalist for multi-sport mass participation events.
Thank you. I think you might have meant Supreme Court Gardens, not Stirling Gardens.
Supreme Court
Supreme Court Gardens, yeah.
Yes.
Because Stirling, as
Stirling
the
very
CEO
different.
whispered to me, that's going to be very squishy was the
Yeah.
technical term. But Supreme Court Gardens, it is. Gentlemen, thank you. Very exciting. Obviously, no decision's been made as yet. That's next week. Not wishing to preempt any decision of council, but $1 million is what the administration has recommended. That's a very significant contribution if that is what ends up happening. And clearly the administration have recognised the significance of this event, and at next week's council meeting the elected members will also get the opportunity to consider that. But thank you very much. Great presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
Good
Thank you,
luck.
councillors.
Thank you. We move then to Nathan Bennett. And is it Asil? Asil Tabor? Asil. Okay, but I would like to get the pronunciations right because obviously Basil's Amplis has been butchered over the years, so I owe it to everybody to try my hardest. So Asil. Asil, beautiful name, Asil. Asil Tabor, also here. But Nathan Bennett, boring name, easy to say. Okay.
Good start.
And representing Perth Festival, who are speaking against the recommendation in item 12.2. Nathan, if you could name and address, and we'll start the clock. Thank you.
Yes, Nathan Bennett of 3 Roslyn Street, West Leederville. Thank you, Lord Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity for this deputation this evening, in which I will be very respectfully requesting that the city makes a multi-year commitment to Perth Festival at the level that we've requested. Our new artistic director, Anna Rees, the very first Perth-born artistic director in our 71-year history, knows this place. She loves this place. And she has an incredibly ambitious plan to deliver a series of large-scale projects that will reoccur each year of her 4-year tenure. Projects that over that same period will literally draw hundreds of thousands of people into the city of Perth. And while these projects will build in terms of scale and attendance over that period, of critical importance to your decision is the fact that there are a high number of upfront costs required in order for us to establish them. The biggest example of one of these projects is our Beacons of Light project, which will see us illuminate the river and draw people to the city from Guildford to Perth, from Fremantle to Perth. The city of Perth will literally be the epicentre of this large-scale, game-changing, free public installation. We'll also be transforming the iconic Perth Town Hall into the Embassy, a place for music, dancing, romance, hopefully, and nostalgia. And taking over Forest Place with Perth Moves from Strut Dance Company. Another free event, a vibrant dance hub right here in the centre of the CBD. All of these events, in addition to our ticketed performance program, which utilises most of the conventional performance venues in the city, all of these events are specifically designed to give locals and visitors alike a culturally rich, vibrant experience of the city of Perth. We are very conscious of the cost of living pressures that the community is currently facing, which is why we've programmed so much free content, which is obviously expensive when there isn't a ticketing return to count on. And we've also kept ticket prices low because we don't want to be stretching the community too far. We are, of course, incredibly grateful to the city for your ongoing annual support of Perth Festival. A multi-year commitment will give us the confidence to plan and execute what will really be a step change in terms of the scale and impact of Perth Festival 2025, 26 and 27. Thank you.
Nathan, thank you. I'm sure there will be some questions, so I'll open it up to councillors. I've got a couple as well, but I'm just going through a couple of things here. So, councillors, who'd like to lead off? Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you for coming along. I'd like to know what will be the consequence of our reduced support for this.
This is a significant event. We receive funding from a wide range of sources, but we would need to consider how we might scale our activity if the request wasn't met.
Councillors? I'll go. So the issue with the 3 years v 1 year, notwithstanding the amounts, no. So what does a second and a third year up front now enable you to do that? I mean, the regular pattern has been come and be awarded money. So there's nothing to suggest that you won't get money in years 2 and 3. Haven't seen sort of a pattern of that. But leaving that to one side, I appreciate you still got to come back and do it again. But what's the impact of having to not having a 3-year commitment, but just having a year, having to update it yearly?
What's different about the strategy or the program structure of the festival for the next 4 years is that we are making multi-year commitments to delivering projects that will reoccur. While there are significant establishment costs, we will see some of the same infrastructure utilised in subsequent years at the same time as scaling the projects themselves.
Is there an opening event this year?
Not as such. The structure, again, is quite different. The Beacons of Light project is the most equivalent, but it'll run for the duration of the festival. But there won't be a single day or event in the program this year.
Right. So, because typically you have had an opening event for the festival, haven't you?
That's right. The approach is quite different over the next period. The investment is going in things that will last for the duration of the festival.
Yeah. Okay. I see here that there's 14 large light beacons along the Swan River. Does that sound right?
That's right.
And 3 of those will be in the city. So are they?
That's right.
Perth Water out here?
Yep.
Okay. And can you give us a sense of what will happen around those? So the light beacons will be out there. Will there be? You go and get your own drink down at Elizabeth Quay and look out, or will there be events where you can go and look at the lights? How will that part of it?
So we're still a few months out. The creative development is ongoing, but essentially there'll be a series of structures that are designed in consultation with our Noongar community. There'll be a soundscape. There'll be a very large beacon of light, CASA approved, that will shine up into the sky, and those will be visible from a distance. So the intention is that people will be drawn to each of these locations. Each of them will have some kind of cultural or community significance, and there'll be a trail that people will be able to follow in order to experience all of them.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, can I suggest that, so I appreciate that the recommendation at this stage, only recommendation from the admin is for an amount lower than what you had asked for in the 3 years. But might one of the issues with you're effectively, if we go with a lower amount, you're locking yourself into the lower amount for 3 years, whereas, you could be dealing yourself out because you come back next year, different amount you ask for, you might get it next year. So I suppose what I'm saying is this is not necessarily... this might not necessarily be the worst outcome if it's a lower amount that the recommendation is for.
I think the point to reinforce is that there are significant establishment costs in year 1. So on balance, the additional request in year 1 is necessary for us in order to establish them.
Mm-hmm. Has your amount of funding from state government increased, decreased, or stayed the same for this year's festival?
Good question. So the Lottery West board meeting takes place next week. We've put in a significant additional request to them and are asking for increases from all of our partners, given the nature of the step change that we're programming for the next 4 years.
Okay. Can you want to have a go at what sort of percentage increase you're asking for, if not the amount?
From Lottery West? I don't know that I can at this point.
Okay. All right. You can if you want. You won't get in trouble with us. Because I suppose, one of the contemplations is that, as you've acknowledged, everything's more expensive at the moment. Everything's more expensive. It's more expensive for us to put on all of the services that we put on for our community. And I love the ambition, as you well know, but I suppose meeting that increased ambition, you know, from what I'm seeing from the recommendation from our officers, is perhaps challenging in that environment that you yourself have identified, that sort of cost of living environment that we're in. Nonetheless, we're only considering here. We're not at that stage yet, but I do appreciate the input that you've given us. That does help the considerations. Councillors, anyone else? Back to DLM.
I'd just like to ask, are there any other local governments contributing to your event?
There are a series of local governments contributing to the Perth Festival program broadly. A number of those decisions are also upcoming next week.
Actually, that's a good question, DLM. You know, I'm a big fan of Perth, Nathan. The 14 large light beacons along the Swan River, of which the city is getting 3. Any of the other local government areas getting 3 or more?
I don't believe so.
Anyone else getting 3? Same as us.
I don't believe so. Cecile?
I've not confirmed. The locations are still being consulted with our NFC.
Three's a lot out of 14.
Yeah, no.
The whole idea is that it culminates at the hub.
Okay, great. Do they keep going as well? Or
They go
further up the river?
from Guildford to Fremantle.
Oh, yes, so we're in halfway. Okay, excellent. Councillors? Councillor Gonzalez.
Thanks. Just wondering, how does a multi-year agreement change your strategy for collaboration and cooperation with other arts organisations and your other partners?
Multi-year commitments give us confidence and security. That means that we can plan better, further in advance, including giving commitments to local companies that we'll be partnering with.
Just on that note, so does having a multi-year agreement provide for that impact by providing that certainty rather than just simply the administrative and opportunity costs of having to reapply each year? That must take your focus away from the delivery side. So if you could speak to that.
It is a factor. There's obviously a lot of work involved in preparing these applications for Perth Festival and for the administration, in fact, in assessing them and providing feedback. I think it's a more efficient way for a partner that has continued to receive annual support for many, many, many years to make a multi-year commitment at a level that will allow us to plan with confidence and find cost efficiencies by making multi-year commitments to suppliers and artists.
And just on that last note, you mentioned as a multi-year partner, obviously the Perth Festival isn't going anywhere soon, and you know we're the city of Perth, and it just on that rationale that providing a single year agreement when the future landscape is quite certain, is that something that has been addressed by the administration so far as to where a multi-year agreement could provide certainty and efficiency for the city as well as yourselves?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
I guess the detail there is providing certainty and efficiency for the city of Perth as much as it is to you as well. That there's a benefit for the city in order to be able to allocate funding and know that it will be utilised and delivered and contracted rather than just simply on your side.
Yeah, I think that's right. And look, we're a credible partner. Hopefully we're not going anywhere. We've been around for a while, and I think that we operate ethically with a focus on community impact in terms of visitation, in terms of civic pride, in terms of economic returns.
Nathan, you mentioned, I know you said that the other local governments are still considering their decisions. Have you asked the others for funding, or is it in kind and that sort of thing?
Both. Our partnership with the City of Perth is the largest by a long shot in terms of the other LGAs that we're working with.
Okay, thank you. And DLM?
Do you see the beacons, because they're spread from Guildford to Fremantle, as a source of advertising your event and bringing attention to it?
Exactly. So we have advertising budgets, we have billboards, we have websites, all kinds of digital campaigns, but this is something that really celebrates Perth. It'll be iconic. People will see it, they will talk about it, they will know that Perth Festival's on.
You know, in 1962, John Glenn went over the top and looked down, and all the lights were on, and he called Perth the City of Light.
That's right.
It's just incredible. Will City of Light get a, given there seems to be a close alignment in themes, will City of Light get a run in any of this?
In a
You might mention it, you might use that name, City of Light.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we will definitely work with the administration on to determine what's included as part of the partnership.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. Anyone else, councillors? Nathan, thank you as
Many
always.
thanks.
Thank you
Likewise.
very much.
Thanks.
Not a boring name. Promise. Nathan, thank you. It's Nathan Bennett. And we now go to deputation number 3. Ian, Nathan, was the previous, we sort of built him up to be the great West Australian, and then I heard snuck in there that the current creative director is the first West Australian-born creative
right.
director.
That's right. It's my pleasure to reveal that Ian Grandage was born in Brisbane.
You didn't tell us that over the last 6 years, did you?
He was raised
Came in with
here.
the trumpet and all of that.
He moved here when he was 8.
Did he?
He's a West Australian at heart.
Okay, fair enough. He got his hairstyle over there, but he got his pizzazz over here. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you very much. Deputation number 3, I'm going to invite Ian Booth, representing the Black Swan Theatre Company, who's speaking against the recommendation in item 12.3. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, gentlemen, and those that might be leaving. We understand if you do have to go. Speaking against item 12.3 to come forward. Ian, hello. If you give us your name and address, and then you're away.
Thanks very much, Lord Mayor and councillors. Ian Booth. My address is 38 Venn Street in North Perth. I really thank the Lord Mayor and the council for its time and allowing me to speak, and will endeavour to be brief and comply with the 5-minute clock. I'm making this deputation today because I'm seeking to highlight some elements of our application that may not have been apparent to the city in its assessment. I acknowledge the long-term support of the city towards Black Swan and grateful for it. And I also wanted to make a quick point about echoing some of the points that were made in Nathan's presentation about how all funds and funding at this time is challenging at a time of cost increases to everyone in the community. The 2024-25 recommended sum for Black Swan is a decrease of just over 20% on the amount originally recommended in 23-24, from $65,000 down to $50,000. The panel noted 25 program was at an early stage when we applied in May, and this is correct. It's due to the nature of the sector we're in and the timing issues between when we were able to receive confirmation of our overall budget and our ability to confirm which shows we're actually going to produce. So the art form is different to others that you'll be considering coming up, where there's more certainty about the timing of future programming. So at the time of application, we were waiting for the outcome of our 4-year funding agreement from the state and federal government, which has now been received. We will now have much more certainty in the future years, and we can plan way more than when we applied this year. So when we submitted our application in May, our planned 25 season has taken a significant shape. When we applied, we could only confirm 4 productions for the State Theatre Centre. We can now confirm there'll be 6 productions scheduled to take place in the city in 25. So we were successful in receiving additional funding from the state and federal government. And effectively, this means we're able to produce more, but it also means that we don't have to rely on the reserves, which our company has had to do in the past few years to get us through. So these 6 productions will deliver 122 performances and associated events in the city, which is up from 3 productions and 57 performances in the city this year. So basically, we're doubling our activity in the city from this year to the next year. And this will bring an estimated 40,000 audience into the city on weeknights and weekends. The activity will occur from March to December, with the majority planned for the quieter months of May to September. This is up from about 27,000 in our application, so another, nearly double in terms of people coming into the city. In assessing our application, the panel commended our community engagement initiatives with youth, First Nations, disadvantaged, financially challenged audiences. This is an ongoing focus of ours and something we're proud of. And this year alone, we've already committed over 2,000 tickets in this area. We're also strengthening ties with WAPA ahead of their move to the city in 26. Of the many different partnerships we have with WAPA, from mentorships, guest lecturing, practical on-the-job training and so on. Highlighting one, WAPA students are offered the opportunity to attend dress rehearsals of our shows at no cost, attracting these students to the city to engage directly with Black Swan on a very regular basis. The local businesses we partner with have recognised and acknowledged considerable increase in patronage over our past 2 productions this year in the city, with direct economic impact of $2 million and an indirect of $5.7 million. And giving anecdotal comments, the Shadow Wine Bar, No Mafia, Alex Hotel Mechanics Institute have all seen increases in patronage and connections to Black Swan audiences pre and post shows. So far in 24, we've far exceeded our anticipated targets with more events and more attendees than we anticipated, with a fantastic program. We've already over-delivered on our 24 commitments to the City of Perth, with there's one more show that will open this next weekend coming. So, for example, our visitation targets of 10,000 attendees in 24 to the city has been doubled already. We've had over 21,000 people attend our shows already in the city this year. Our vibrancy target is around the Net Promoter Score, which we were aiming for greater than 50. We've exceeded a Net Promoter Score of 75 for our shows at the Heath Ledger Theatre so far this year, which is basically off the charts for that type of from targeting.
Almost 5 minutes, Ian.
Okay. Our economic growth target of over 20% of our audience spending more than $50 each has been exceeded. We've had 40% of our audience spending $50 or more at shows this year, so we're doubling that. As noted by the city's arts policy, arts and culture are vital elements of city life, which engage, challenge, surprise and inspire. Black Swan's vision is to entertain, challenge and inspire through production of exceptional theatre. We think we're doing that incredibly well. We're activating the nighttime economy in Northbridge and surrounds, and I truly appreciate hard decisions need to be made with limited resources, but urge you to consider Black Swan.
Ian, thank you. Appreciate the deputation and points well made as per with our previous. Thanks, Nathan, for being here tonight, and to the others that have spoken. Ian, what are your other funding sources?
So about 40% of our funding comes from state and federal government, with 40% from ticket sales and the balance from corporate and philanthropy.
Sure. I think last year $30,000 from the City of Perth.
That was the ultimate award. There was a particular production that we were endeavouring to secure, which we were not able to do so. So we took an agreed lesser amount.
The GM
rather than over-promise and under-deliver.
Sure, the GM I think can nod along, but I think so. Initially 65,000. That event didn't happen, so it ended up being 30,000.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so this year we go from again. This is the recommendation, but it'll be up from 30,000 to 50,000. That's what the recommendation is.
That's correct. But as mentioned, we feel that we've doubled the amount of delivery on what we have contracted this year, and in continuing to do that on an upward trend with increased support from state government and the patronage of our public buying tickets.
Sure. Councillors, any other? Yes, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you for coming along. When you established your price range, did you take into account the sum of money you were going to receive from the City of Perth?
Well, prices overall for tickets have remained basically the same over the last few years, and we're endeavouring to do that again. We see that as a real ambition to try and keep prices the same or as reasonable as possible. With a lot of tickets, as mentioned, that are discounted significantly for disadvantaged groups. We have $30 under 30 tickets. We have industry pass tickets at $25 and so on. So the average ticket price is really quite modest. But in answer to your question, it's not something we'd take into account, that difference in change. If we were to not have an increase in our funding, we would have to reevaluate all our budgets and perhaps go back to the board for continuing to draw down on reserves, because we really want to commit to this level of programming in 25.
Thank you.
Councillors, anything further from any councillors? Yes, Councillor Gonsalves.
Thanks. Just wanted to touch on what you mentioned there about reinvigorating what is sometimes a quiet period in terms of months, but also note that in the documentation it mentions performances that would otherwise be held between Tuesday and Sunday evenings. I'm just wondering whether you've collaborated with other businesses or community organisations on how to reinvigorate what is otherwise a quiet midweek nighttime economy.
Not quite sure of the question. In terms of collaborations, we certainly have an active involvement with many local businesses in the area, and going to them to try and have either different incentives or opportunities for pre and post show productions and so on. But yeah, not with other community groups per se.
Thank you. Councillors, anything further? Ian, thank you very much. Really appreciate you being here. Good to hear it directly from you. So that takes us now to Deputation 4, and I'm going to invite Shannon Yuknovich, Marina Hogan and Kate Parker, representing the Leicester Prize, speaking against the recommendation in item 12.3. So please come forward. Who's our speaking representative today?
I'm Shannon Yuknovich, the Executive Director.
Yuknovich, sorry Shannon, there's a couple I butchered tonight. Shannon,
quite
thank
okay.
you. Name and address, and then we'll start the 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shannon Yuknovich, 86 Dances Street in Wembley. Thank you for the opportunity, councillors, to be here this evening. The Leicester Prize for Portraiture has had a long-standing and significant partnership with the City for Perth for the last many, many years, since our inception 18 years ago, with the Lord Mayor opening our awards ceremony every year. We have received since 2017, we have received $60,000 from the City each year. We would be very grateful if the City could please increase the recommended amount of $20,000 to $60,000 as previous years. As my first year as the Executive Director of the Prize, I sincerely apologise that our application was incomplete in some ways and didn't provide you with substantial information and supporting documents. This year, as we move to our new exhibition partner, the West Australian Museum, I'd like to clarify some information around the ticketing program. The West Australian Museum Boulevard has an entry fee of $15 and $10 to concession. This fee comes with a whole year annual pass to the museum. So what it should hopefully involve is more people returning to the centre after they've paid for their entry fee to enter our prize. The Leicester Prize receives no money from the museum. All of this revenue goes directly to the museum. And last year, the museum had 60,000 visitors throughout the year and is on track for a 5% increase this year. We are a national portraiture prize, the third largest in the country. We have $121,000 that we spread across 11 categories. With that, I have 2.5 full-time employees, including myself, to bring this thing to life. So we are a small, lean organisation, and the loss of $40,000 will impact our program significantly. This money is used for our community engagement, our events and transport for those residing outside the city. The two main programs that will be impacted by the reduction in funding is our connected communities. Throughout our 8-week program, we provide regular transport to communities from Kalamunda, Armidale, Fremantle, Joondalup and Vic Park. They spend the day in the city, the morning with our exhibition, and the rest of the day in the city, utilising the local restaurants and retail precinct. Unfortunately, we would really need to cut back our traditional and digital marketing activations in Forest Place, Yagan Square, Northbridge Piazza and the Cultural Centre. I'm pleased to advise that the Youth Prize will remain a free exhibition. It is housed outside the main entry to the museum. And last year we had an array of students, up to 600, participating in that program. So we envisage around 6,000 less visitors to the city with a cutback in our programs. I'd like to also comment on our approach to diversity and sustainability. I'm proud of our diversity. We have representation from the LGBTQI and Indigenous communities across our judging, pre-selection panels and staff. This year, 4 of our finalists are from an Indigenous community and 3 of them reside remotely in the Kimberley, and they will be travelling here for the award ceremony. Funding permitting, we provide financial assistance where possible to help those who need to travel from remote communities. While the next point may seem small, I think it's important to let you know that our artworks get packaged up and delivered to us by the artists themselves. We recycle and save every bit of packaging and we send it back to them in that original packaging. So whilst we are small, we don't have huge sustainability policies, but we do what we can. Last year, 22,000 people participated in the Lester Prize, which was a record year for us. During our year-long program, outside of our exhibition series, we host around 35 events to support and drive people into the city. None of our activities have changed this year. In fact, we're trying our best to drive more people to participate in our programs. And for all of these reasons, we ask that you please reinstate our original funding as it has been in previous years to $60,000. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Shannon. We'll get the opportunity to ask our admin a little bit later, and
Sure.
you may or may not sort of know the answer to this, but do you have you might not be able to answer either, but do you have a sense that had your application gone differently, or you mentioned some parts are incomplete? Do you feel like you didn't get the chance to? Not you didn't get the chance, but you didn't put forward your best application.
I do, and
Yeah.
have to put my hand on my heart.
Just put the mic on, Shannon. That's all right. Just the button there. Yeah, keep going. Should go. And then, there we go. That's it. That one again. There you go.
Okay. Yes, I do, and I take full responsibility for that, and it will never happen again.
I didn't mean it that way. So
No, I know you didn't, but I'm
trying
just...
to, not trying to.
I know what you... I think,
It
yes,
wasn't about that.
we could have expanded on a number of items, particularly with the move to the museum this year, which has been somewhat confusing for some people, but we think it's actually going to drive more people to the city. Yeah. We could have expanded upon that and how the ticketing works, in that it actually gives people an annual pass to the museum, so it will drive people back to the cultural centre. Does that explain things?
Yeah, sure it does. Just out of interest, and again, I'll get the opportunity to ask the admin, and the admin may well say it wouldn't be appropriate for us to do this.
Sure.
And I'll accept that if that's what the answer is down the track. But when they received what you would call sort of incomplete, or I think it's been noted that there was some parts, did they come back to you and say, hey, this bit here is not quite, doesn't seem like it's finished? Or
No, I didn't get that opportunity. I received an email last Friday.
Okay. And just on the $15 and $10 at
Yes.
the museum, I did enjoy last year's event and enjoyed getting the chance to come and open it. It was at the Art Gallery last year,
It
right?
was at the Art Gallery.
So they're not
yes.
charging you, I gather, the Art Gallery, or you didn't charge last year?
No, so it was a free event previous.
So why the
years.
decision to go to the museum and not stay at the Art Gallery?
Very good question. Unfortunately, the Art Gallery Western Australia decided to not renew our partnership with them, so we had to go and find pretty quickly a new venue.
Can't they support the arts at the art gallery? What's going on there?
Look, we are a national portraiture prize. We receive slightly less amount of entries than the Archibald, which everyone talks about. So we're very proud of our, and our entries come 50% from WA and 50% from across the country. And this year we have entries from every state and territory. So it was very disappointing to learn that AGWA didn't want to commit to us again. And the museum were fabulous. They immediately said, that's fine, we've got a spot for you, level 1, the mezzanine, you can go there. So we've had a great relationship. It is disappointing as a National Portraiture Prize that the gallery, our main gallery, didn't want to continue.
So what reasons did they give you?
It was before my time, Basil, but Lord Mayor rather. But
others applicable.
I think it was not part of their new direction, their contemporary strategy.
Art.
But I can say the current exhibition at the gallery at the moment is $55 for it to enter and pay to go and see Rome. By comparison, the museum at $15 for a year-long pass is very reasonable, at $10 for a concession for families.
You learn something with deputations, don't you?
Thank you.
You do. Councillors, as I still scratch my head on those last couple of points, over to you, DLM.
Thank you. Thanks, Shannon, for your deputation. In previous years, it's been free entry. This year it's $15, but all the money goes to the museum.
Correct.
Which is supporting the museum and supporting arts in Western Australia.
Correct.
Do you feel like you might be penalised because you're supporting the museum?
I don't think so. I think if we look at the museum, it is one of the most beautiful cultural museums globally, really. We're very lucky to have a building like that to participate in. Plus, the other thing is once you enter that building, not only are you seeing the Lester Prize, you have access to all of the other studios within the museum. So I don't think so. I think Marina would agree with me that it's probably a positive.
Yes. Okay, once again, how vital are the funds from us for the success of this event?
Very, extremely vital. As I mentioned, we are a very, very small organisation. We would need to cut back all that transport that we provide regularly to the external communities. The free events, the community events, the artist workshops, they will be significantly impacted, as well as our activation programs.
DLM?
We have been supporting this event, I understand, since 2017.
Correct.
And there's a great history of support with us. Did anyone from the staff come to you and say, look, I think you made some mistakes here, you need to fix these up to continue on with the support that we've given you in the past?
As in made mistakes in how we've executed our programs?
Yes.
I joined the Lester Prize in November this last year, so I'm quite new. My understanding is the city's been pretty happy with all of our programs. It's been a very positive partnership with the Lester Group.
Yeah. I'm talking about your application that you put in.
My application.
Yeah, sorry.
I think that's pretty much what I asked before.
Yes, look, I can. Yes, I think we could definitely have. There's very many key learnings to make sure that we improve our application process going forward.
But no one from the staff came back and said, you've made some mistakes here, we need answers for this.
Sorry, no one from the city of Perth?
Yes.
Sorry, I misread the question. I didn't receive any of that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Doshi?
Thank you through you, Lord Mayor. Thank you for your deputation, Shannon. Have you considered or applied for any other grants, either Lottery West, state, federal funding, and in terms of donors and things like that in support?
Sure. We have a range of philanthropic support from family foundations, individual donors that come every year. We have an individual donor program. We have philanthropic support from family foundations and corporate support. So this year I was pleased to bring on 2 new corporate sponsors. We don't receive any state funding. It's primarily the City of Perth. From time to time we've applied for smaller Lottery West grants for a specific program, but going forward next year I will be looking at the national, local and state funding program. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillors, any further questions? I don't want to sort of overlabour this, but I am still struggling a little bit to come to terms with the art gallery not supporting the Lester Prize.
So are we.
It's a bit like the MCG not sort of supporting football or cricket. That's a hard one to get your head around, Deputy Lord Mayor. Okay, if there's nothing further from any of our councillors, Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you, Marina, for being here also. You're welcome to stay or also free to go. I believe we've got one more tonight, and that is deputations I'm talking about. This is from James O'Hara and Cameron Park, representing Strut Dance, who are speaking against the recommendation in item 12.3. James?
Hello, yes. This
Hi,
is
James.
No, Cam.
James, if you could just name and address, and then time is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. James O'Hara. I'm one of the co-directors of Strut Dance, and my address is 24 Harvest Road, North Fremantle. So, Strut unlocks the possibilities of what dance is, who it is for, the stories it tells, the places where dance is shared, and the types of engagement that dance can offer. In our application to City of Perth, we focus on 2 programs that care deeply for the growth of the arts sector and the culture of our city, and provide inspiring and accessible ways for people to engage with the arts as contributors, participants, and spectators. Though vastly different in scale, Perth Moves and our weekly classes are interdependent, where the success of one relies on the success of the other. Perth Moves is a 3-week dance festival during Perth Festival in the heart of our city that democratises access and nurtures relationships that will have long-term, life-changing effects. This one-of-a-kind festival will uplift, connect, and impact over 10,000 West Australians. The festival is threefold. Firstly, a once-in-a-lifetime creative and employment opportunity for West Australians to work with a leading figure of the dance world, Sidi Larbi Shikawi. Secondly, an outdoor stage in Forest Place, where anyone and everyone can access world-class performances and social dance activities, all totally free of charge. And thirdly, a professional development workshop series that attracts artists from across the Asia-Pacific and provides tuition scholarships to ensure the diversity of the next generation of artists. The works of Sidi Larbi Shikawi can be seen on stages and on screens the world over, in theatres and opera houses, in Hollywood blockbusters, and even in Madonna's latest tour. Though he's never created work in Australia before, and he has chosen Strut and this city to be where he does so for the very first time. Perth Moves consciously offers the arts to all. It grows artists, audiences, and enthusiasts of the future to fuel the power of the arts, to safely and boldly share stories and experiences with each other despite our differences. A quote from the senior program officer at Perth Festival. She says, "We saw audiences at Perth Moves that we had never seen at Perth Festival events before." Strategically, Perth Moves allows Strut to introduce itself to those that we don't yet know, and the taster classes in Forest Place grow exposure of and invitation to those that may not know that they can take classes in our city all year round. Strut's annual class program is the only offering of contemporary dance classes for dance enthusiasts in this city. Twice weekly on a Tuesday night and Saturday morning, our classes offer a fun, safe, and supportive environment for dance enthusiasts to be creative, build connections and community, and enjoy the health and well-being benefits of dance. These classes also provide our members with work as teachers, keeping our local artists employed in the arts. The classes connect Strut to a wider community in Perth. The participants are our audiences, assisting audience growth for the arts in the city, and they also provide dance enthusiasts a pathway to Strut's yearly program, facilitating greater diversity in our arts sector. Now in its 3rd year, Perth Moves 2025 grows dramatically in scale and impact. In moving the event out of the protected and somewhat exclusive theatre courtyard and keeping the activities free of charge, the shift in scale, access, and visibility will be enormous. Though as exciting as the change in location is, moving out of the theatre space and into the city square brings with it extra costs. For example, security alone will cost over $10,000. In 2025, we expect to double our participation in numbers, and we now have confirmation that Perth Festival are unable to underwrite the ticket costs, which places extra pressure on our small but very dedicated staff of full-time equivalent of 2.4, and that increases our already ambitious philanthropic fundraising target. In 2025, in a massive win for the arts in WA, Strut will receive multi-year funding from Creative Australia, the only dance organisation, the only dance organisation in our city to do so since 12 years. This incredible feat will increase our capacity in delivering and marketing the class program in 2025. And like you, we acknowledge that the number of participants in our classes to date could be higher. So we will capture the momentum of both the upscaled Perth Moves and the Creative Australia support to grow this program and in turn increase visitation to the city year round. We are forever grateful for the City of Perth's support in the past and the boost that this gave us to deliver Perth Moves 2024. So we ask you to consider a small increase to ride this momentum with us towards an even more generous Perth Moves 2025. To support the extensive growth and outreach that the 2025 festival will deliver, we are requesting a $10,000 increase to make Perth Moves 2025 as successful as possible. The weekly classes and development of this program will benefit from this success. For those that were lucky enough to experience the electric energy over the last 2 years in the State Theatre Courtyard, I'm sure you'll agree that the shift in venue and scale is thrilling to imagine. And for those that are yet to experience Perth Moves, we invite you to come along and be part of the inspiring gathering of connection and community through dance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. We appreciate you giving us those thoughts. They're useful, obviously, for councillors. Did I hear you say then Perth Festival is reducing its funding?
Not reducing their funding. So when we sat down with Anna to dream up this program, and we started to consider Forest Place as a new venue, one of the initial ideas was, do we need to, for the increased cost, do we need to make it ticketed? And so we're in discussion around whether they could potentially underwrite the costs of those ticket costs, which is about $40,000.
So do they give you funding at the moment?
They're giving us some, they've increased their funding for us, yes.
Okay.
So I think there's, we're in our third year, so it's kind of the third pilot now.
Yes.
The first year we kind of just snuck in the last minute, and Ian was very gracious. And then the second year they gave us a little bit more support, and this year they're going to give us a little bit more support. Yeah. I think because they understand how beneficial to the festival it is. I mean, even hearing Nathan mention it in their highlights, that was quite.
That was nice.
It was good.
Yeah. Good. Great acknowledgement. I think we gave you 50,000 last year.
Yes,
correct?
50,000 for the State Theatre Courtyard.
And I note that the admin is recommending 50,000. You've just said that yourself. You're asking for a little bump up to 60,000
to cover the extra cost for the scale of the shift out of the theatre. Yeah,
sure. Okay, councillors, is there anything from anyone? Yes, Councillor Doshi.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for your deputation. I just have a couple of questions around the dance programme that you're going to do. So that will be based at King Street at the Arts Centre.
So we have, Perth Moves is rather massive. So we have three things. We've got the workshop series, which is a paid participation, and that's for participants from around the Asia Pacific region, and they come to King Street and they participate in workshops. So we're bringing artists from all around the world, local, national, international leaders of the art of dance, and they participate in workshops. So this year, we had about 377 participants partake in that. We have scholarships from Singapore, Taiwan, Aotearoa, and all the states that we've collaborated with, other organisations, to ensure that there's a diverse group of people coming, including 9 First Nations artists. Secondly, we have the Hub, which is in Forest Place, which is our free program, which is all about creating a dance space for anyone and everyone to participate, whether that be through the dance classes or a spectator.
So the funding that you're asking for is solely for Forest Place, or is it for both?
We combine both our Perth Moves program and our yearly program, which is twice weekly classes, because that's our visitation to the city. So we don't include our professional dance program. This is our public dance program. So this is for dance enthusiasts who want to come and partake in dance classes. So we've included that in our application as well. And we understand that has had limited numbers over the last year, and we're trying to find a way to boost that. So we wanted to move Perth Moves to Forest Place to engage with over 10,000 people to say, you can do dance in the city all year round.
So I guess that's probably my next question in terms of those free sessions located there. How are you going to engage sort of with the local community, I guess, and the ratepayer to make sure that they're sort of involved in that and they're a part of that community dance element of it as opposed to the other one?
So, well, there's, I suppose, two aspects. So last year when we were at the State Theatre Courtyard, I think we engaged with about over 20 businesses over in the area to supply either discounted rates of meals and drink vouchers. We had quite a few sponsors that supplied prizes that was to be given at the dance battle. And alongside that, we also work with community dance groups who already have, their community, but mostly in cultural dance or ethnic dance. So Mabunga culture, Afro dance or Indian dance. And so next year we have actually a rather incredible artist coming from Dakar who leads the diaspora Afro dance. So she'll be coming, who will hopefully, share with other communities in the region to say that there's also a contemporary dance offering in the city.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Councillor Doshi. Anyone else, councillors? Councillor Gonsalves.
Thanks for the deputation. You mentioned there about the shift in scale, and obviously moving from the State Theatre courtyard to Forest Place is a big change in scale and big change in engagement and visibility. I'm just wondering, what does that look like in terms of visitation and people that can come into the city and engage with the hub and the program?
So in the first year, I remember we had a beautiful program over 5 days, and this is our pilot season, right? And I think because the courtyard is so protected, I think there was about maybe 5 or 6 people that came in the first night that I think 2 were backpackers from France who had just got off the plane, and they loved it so much that they came back the next day and the next day, and they brought friends that they met at the hostel. Anyway, to make it a long story short, the theatre's quite restricted in terms of you have to want to go into that space or feel like you're invited into that space, right? There's still, especially in Australia, there's still this kind of superiority around going to the theatre. There's an exclusivity. And so by moving it to Forest Place, we actually just access an incredible range of people that either know the festival's on but wouldn't otherwise go into the courtyard, or don't know the festival's on and pass by and go, hey, this is a really great vibe. I want to be part of this. Oh, this happens all year round. So our hope is that we'll just be, we'll be connecting with so many different people that we otherwise wouldn't. So essentially what Jess Darlow says, which is, a festival, the Perth Festival accessed so many people through Perth Moves that they otherwise couldn't connect with. We're hoping to increase that by going into Forest Place to go, we've accessed a few people that you couldn't access before, and now we're going to access so many other people and provide that invitation to be part of it.
Thank you. James, well done. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Appreciate you being
Nice
here.
to see you all.
Congratulations on your event. It's been very successful. Got a shout out from Perth Festival. Well done. Thanks, everybody. We will have the opportunity to discuss those obviously later on. And thanks to everyone who's been present for deputations. Items 7 to 10 will be dealt with at the ordinary council meeting next week. We're now on our way to reports. I will remind councillors, if you've got any questions in relation to the items, you'll have your opportunity. Thank you both for being here. Cheers. Pardon me. Item 11 is Planning and Economic Development Alliance reports, and we start with 11.1, Draft Terrace Road Character Area Local Planning Policy. Councillor Coe has a proximity interest and will leave the chamber if there are any questions. Councillors, any questions? Take a seat, councillor. Thank you. 11.2, the proposed designation of William Street Heritage Area and draft William Street Heritage Area local planning policy. Questions, councillors? Thank you. 11.3, proposed designation of Hay Street Mall Heritage Area and draft Hay Street Mall Heritage Area local planning policy. Questions, councillors? And 11.4 is the Riverfront Master Plan. Councillors, any questions? Thank you. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Can I just make it, my question is that we're not endorsing the plan, we're just asking for public comment.
The recommendation is below. So what is coming to us next week is that council will endorse the draft Riverfront Master Plan and associated explanatory reports for the purposes of public consultation.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
We've made no commitment towards any of the projects that are proposed, and that's a concern with the people in the city of Perth. That
Questions,
DLM?
DLM? Yeah. So the answer to the question is what we are considering is what's in front of us. Yeah, as I just said. Anything else? Yes, Councillor Gonzalez.
Actually, yeah, I do have a question. Just through the Lord Mayor,
Yeah.
whether as part of the public consultation or the
Yes.
pre-public consultation, I'm just wondering whether any consultation was done with the state or federal governments, and what did that look like?
Okay, so, well, again, perhaps, CEO, maybe you'd like to provide some clarity, or perhaps through your General Manager, on exactly what the recommendation that we're considering next week is.
So I'll ask the GM to answer both questions for clarity, and maybe for the purposes of the second question, just to be clear, I wasn't certain that we heard it. It was asking about the involvement or state, federal government in the consultation process. But before maybe I hand over to the General Manager, I would also need to confirm the dates. We'll take that on notice. But the previous Premier, it was raised as part of a meeting, the previous Premier in 2020, November 2023, I think, as part of the Committee of Perth. So we raised it at your meeting with the then Premier.
Actually, so to be clear on that, so both premiers in this term of government,
Correct.
it has been an agenda item on when we have had our committee for Perth, committee, is that what they're called?
No, it's not committee.
No, committee for Perth's the other one. Yes, anyway, you know the meeting where we have twice a year, where the Lord Mayor goes up, brings a few friends, sit down around the table. Twice it's been an agenda item, at least, or in front of both premiers. And it certainly was in November or October or November of last year with Premier Cook. So to be clear, Premier Cook knew, because we brought that forward on the agenda, that this was an item that we were working towards, that the riverfront master planning work to get to this point was being done. Just to be clear on that. So it was both premiers.
And if I may, Lord Mayor, we might come back with some of the dates, the specific dates, to make sure we're correct.
But I never forget a premier that I'm sitting on the other side of the table of, Michelle, and I know it was both of them, okay?
And just to
22nd of August. Thank you.
Just to clarify, this was the City of Perth committee that is legislated under the City of Perth Act.
That's the one.
That's one.
That's the one. Twice a year meetings. That's right. Twice a year meetings. Which brings me to another question. Firstly, though.
May I ask the GM to answer both questions, please?
Thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor, the genesis of this project was a couple of years ago, and at that point there was quite a lot of interaction with various state government representatives, departments. Earlier this year there were a series of meetings held with a number of state government departments about what they would like to see happen in the precinct, and then once we had a concept, we went back to them with the concept and sought their input on those again. In terms of where to from here, if council endorses the plan, it is only for the purposes of consultation. It's not approving the plan, and we will go back out to stakeholders during the consultation period. We certainly will be writing to various state government people asking for their comments on the plan. If and when the plan is finally endorsed, it will be used partly for advocacy with state and federal government to seek their commitment and participation to participate in delivering and funding the project as well on a longer term basis.
Thanks, GM. Thanks, CEO. Yes, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Lord Mayor, if I may, the City of Perth Committee has 2 meetings yearly. The last one was in September. Is that correct?
No, August, I think we were just heard from Councillor Gobbett, who was there in attendance in his capacity as the Deputy Lord Mayor. It's fleeting though, isn't it?
So the actual fact, it's almost a year now and we haven't had a single meeting with the state government.
Well, that's an incredible observation, Deputy Lord Mayor, and as I just already pointed out, from one who always remembers his interactions with premiers, that would be correct, yes. It would be 12 months since our last City of Perth committee meeting. That is correct. And given that you're asking the question in such a polite manner now, as CEO, I know we have discussed this. Did we write and inquire as to Hello, you remember us? When's the next meeting? 2 a year. Have we done all that?
Lord Mayor, I would again need to confirm the dates, but I understand you wrote to the Premier possibly last week. So if I could take that on notice, the Lord Mayor did write to the Premier to remind about the meeting schedules.
Obviously, the Premier has a lot on his mind. Easy to be forgetful, but we didn't forget, Deputy Lord Mayor. We were on it. We thought, hang on a second, it's August and we haven't seen the Premier. We better write to him and remind him he's supposed to call 2 meetings a year. So we did, and we're waiting to hear back. Shouldn't be too long now. Councillors, if there's nothing else on 11.4, we'll go to 11.12. We'll go to 12. We'll go to 12. Community Development Alliance reports 12.1 review of policy 4.4 mobile food trading. Councillors, any questions? 12.2. Yes, sorry, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you,
very
Lord
active
Mayor.
tonight.
I noticed that we've reduced the distance with our current policy from 100 metres to 50. Lately, I've had some discussion with a number of businesses that provide food and beverage, along with yourself, that aren't happy with that distance. Can our staff explain to me why it is 50 and not 100?
Thanks, DLM, for the question. CEO?
If I could invite the General Manager, Community Development, to answer that question. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Through the Lord Mayor, thank you for the question. Yes, we did a range of benchmarking, as we've referred to in the council item, and the benchmarking of both other capital cities and larger local governments in WA indicated that 50 metres would be a more appropriate level of distance from bricks and mortar. So it was based on the benchmarking. Thank you.
Thanks, councillors. We'll move on to 12.2. Pardon me. This is the major events, festivals and sponsorship. And so Councillor Gobbett, impartiality. Councillor Doshi, impartiality. So there's no need to... No. Okay. Councillors, any questions? Yes, Councillor Coe.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I've noticed that the World Police and Fire Games is the first time they applied. And is it because their application scored quite high, is it because of them and we're funding them to such a great amount that has affected other applicants' funding?
That's a reasonable question. CEO.
And through to the General Manager, Community Development, please, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor, this application was for 2027, and actually when we considered what that potential impact is in our overall major events budget, we had an analysis of our sponsorship reserve. So the recommendations are to take the monies from the sponsorship reserve to actually fund these. These phasings for amounts to be paid include $150,000 to be taken. So recommendation 2 is to approve a transfer of $150,000 cash from sponsorship reserve for 24-25 to progress through our overall commitment. So no, it does not impact the major events budget moving forward. Thank you.
And so, CEO, just to follow up from me, so in layman's terms, it's from a different bucket of money.
Correct, Lord Mayor. So this particular proposal, part of their, they need certainty as they move forward with their bid. So to enable that to happen, the drawdown will occur at over different financial years and using the reserve. So a more elegant approach so it doesn't impact this year's budget.
Councillor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. If approved by Council next week, what will be the remaining amount in that reserve that you've just mentioned?
CEO?
I'm tempted to direct to the CFO, please. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Through the Chair, Councillor, we need to understand the funding gets transferred into that reserve at the beginning of each year based on Council's budget approval. What happens during that year is dependent on multiple factors, one of which is the timing of when the monies for sponsorships are acquitted, which may run across year ends. The other situation is sometimes the amount that's initially awarded is the amount that's initially awarded is more than what is ultimately acquitted. So to give you a cash balance as it today is potentially a little bit misleading, because until the end of a financial year, we don't exactly know what the balance will be. There is adequate based on the 30th of June balance of the reserve, there's adequate money there to cover this proposal. But what other quantum may be left, which would be much less significant than that, I can't establish at this time.
Thank you, CFO.
And thanks,
Councillor Goldman.
Michael, for that. I'm just trying to get a picture of whether or not we're talking a couple of hundred, couple of thousand, if it's a fluid account or if it's a sizable account in the way that we would think of some of the others, like the building maintenance or council house maintenance or the IT reserve, or like what sort of quantum are you talking about? Does it just exist for administrative purposes?
Thank you. Through the chair, essentially it is an administrative tool to cash flow monies across years. The balance of the reserve at the beginning of a year, it'll have, say, $5.5 million transferred into it, and then that'll get progressively drawn down. The only reason why it has a significant unallocated portion, or prior to this report, was for two reasons. One is because we managed the reserve in that way, we've accumulated a few $100,000 worth of interest revenue over the period the reserve has existed. And secondly, council will remember a period of time back there was a proposal for an event which would have had a $500,000 allocation. That event did not proceed, so those monies remained in the reserve. But typically it doesn't grow at that sort of rate annually.
Thank you. CEO, did you have something else to say?
I was just wondering, through the Lord Mayor, Councillor, is it that you're interested in ensuring that we quarantine that funding because it is a number of years out in our budget allocation? Is that something you're concerned about, that we would quarantine the monies in out years to ensure we had sufficient funds in a reserve?
Essentially, yes. Thanks, CEO, and thanks for pointing that out.
Oh, that's good to see. DLM first and then Councillor Doshi.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord Mayor. For convenience and long-term planning and long-term budgeting, both for the city and for different groups, do we recommend that people put a 3-year application in rather than come yearly for each event?
CEO.
If I may answer that and invite the General Manager if there is anything else to add. Yes, out-year funding is very beneficial to the city, obviously for a number of reasons. It enables certainty, it reduces the impact on the requirements for the proponent, it also reduces the impact on our resources. However, if the funding allocation is less than what has been asked for, it's possibly not prudent to commit to a 3-year opportunity or a 2-year or an out-year opportunity when the funding is lower. So in those instances, and where, as we may have also seen tonight, some of the submissions, the grant applications have not been to a standard that the panel felt justified the quantum, then of course you wouldn't want to be locked into something for 3 years, which is a lesser amount than you truly want or need to operate. So this gives everyone a chance to reposition, take on the feedback that is given at the end of the process. And maybe if I could just raise that point around the process, that when the grants applications are open, there is not an opportunity to have feedback and discuss an application with an applicant, because that would create a bias in the process. So once we have conversations before applications open, we have conversations when applications close, but we do not during that process. You would introduce a bias.
So just before you follow up, so that saves us asking it in the next one, 12.3, because obviously we would have asked that exact question, and I foreshadowed the question. I think you've sort of answered it. So it's not appropriate to say, hey, nice application, but you've left off F and G. That's not appropriate, you're saying?
I would suggest it would be highly inappropriate because it would give an advantage to one applicant compared to others. So then you would jeopardise the entire process, I would suggest.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Lord Mayor,
GM, did you have something on that first?
Through you, Lord Mayor, I'm happy to also add that, as shown in the two items that you have in front of you, so the major events and festivals sponsorship articulates the ones that are already multi-year. So we have a strong commitment already to multi-year where appropriate. So Pride Fest, Road National Championships, and also even in the arts and culture area, we have a number that are included in the item that are multi-year. So in terms of the reference back to, particularly for the Perth Festival, you will note in the item recommendation rationale that we acknowledge that next year's program does not have an opening closing event. It is anticipated, as we understand, to be happening in 26, 27 and 28. It's a 4-year program. Our limitation is on 3 years for our sponsorship agreements. So in that case, we felt it more prudent to say what is the value for what is being proposed currently, which does expand much more greater than the City of Perth central area than previous festivals. We felt it more prudent to do a 1 year now and send those messages across so that when they build on the program for the following 3 years, they're able to come back with a application and a program that we feel would better highlight City of Perth in its programming. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Deputy Lord Mayor.
We're talking about iconic events here, or at least I am. And we've had in the case where we have had mistakes made by new CEOs in applying for money, and we've managed to support them in the past. So how do we overcome the error that's been made and the subject of...
So I think, DLM, hold on to that, because that is, even though we've had the answer for an item that's up in 12.3, we're actually at 12.2 here. So maybe just hang on to that one.
Thank you.
For the time being, and still get the opportunity to ask it. So, CEO, through your... I might, to the GM, so some of it's been mentioned, but I wonder in bullet point form. So they've gone from last year, they were at 400,000. Hang on, I've got it here. This is Perth Festival. Did have it here. Where were they? Sorry. They've come down anyway. There it is. Is that it? Right. Anyway, they've come down. Why have they come down? Why are we not giving them? Why are we not recommending as much money as they've asked for and we've previously given them?
Thank you, through the Lord Mayor. So last year there was an amount requested of 400,000 and we provided 400,000 was awarded. And there were a number of headline free community events for the city. So an Under the Same Sun closing event, which was a free event, occurred in 2024. When this submission came forward for 2025, the assessment noted that in terms of what way it has been requested, so the 500,000, so a request from 400,000 to 500,000 and a 55,600 in kind, we balanced that with actually looking at what was proposed in the program. Again, we've highlighted there is no free community opening or closing event in the program scheduled for next year. We also highlight that whilst understanding the Beacon project, it is going from Guildford to Fremantle. So in terms of that focus being a greater across the metropolitan area than simply previous programs. So balancing all of that, the assessment was, as we've noted in the panel, we also noted in the submission that the projected attendance is lower than the reported attendance for the city for the 2024 festival. So in their own submission, they've acknowledged that given where they're at with the programming and the free events and the like, we are looking at a lesser attendance and, again, that reduction in terms of those free events. We do still understand the extent for the metropolitan, but how that really consolidates to being a unique capital city programming was not clear in the submission at this point in time. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. That's a good point, actually, that so the Beacon event, if it's all the way up the river, if you live in Bassendean, you might go and see it in Bassendean. whereas previously the opening event did come to Perth because it was only on in Perth. So I hadn't thought of that, but that's a reasonable point. I did find my chart, by the way. And so 2021, they were awarded $263,000. 21-22, 350. 22-23, 400. 23-24, 400 last year. And this year, the recommendation is for 355,600. So that is still up on what was awarded in 2021-22, albeit down from last year. But I think what the GMs said then makes sense, or certainly makes sense as to how those quantums may have been arrived at, given the differences between the 2 years' programs. Councillor Doshi?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So the only question that I would have around that is the amount that we've offered this year, the fact that they're also supporting another act through the dance programme, would that not be taken into consideration because they're supporting that and that's also bringing people in?
Well, we don't know how much. We don't know to what level though, do we? And it didn't sound like, to be fair, it was a hugely significant one. But GM, you might know.
Thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor. Yes, we are aware of the amount, and that was factored into when Strut were seeking $60,000, so a $10,000 increase. We appreciate that there's funding arrangements between the two, but I'll just leave it at we understand and we took that into consideration of saying 50,000 we thought was appropriate for Strut. But you're correct, there is some minor support through Perth Festival.
CEO, to the GM, if I can. Are we aware of, I appreciate they didn't want to tell us or didn't know, but are we aware of how much funding they received from the state government last year?
Through you, Lord Mayor, my understanding is last year it was around $7.7 million. I'm not sure how much of that went to the organisation versus the festival. And as acknowledged in the deputation, they are asking for additional funding from Lottery West, so they're still not sure of the funding for the next program.
And on the local government question, are you aware, and you may not be, but are you aware if they, I think Nathan said that they had requested funding, monetary support. Are you aware of any of those amounts for any of the other local governments?
Through you, Lord Mayor, I'm not aware of any of them, but we can have a look through the agendas and see if there's something coming through in councils. We understand there is a South Perth application for funding, but the amount is minor. Again, we can do a bit of a search in the interim and provide that detail through.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Councillors? Yes, Councillor Gonsalves.
Question through the Lord Mayor, just on that multi-year agreement, and we heard around the rationale and some of the issues there, I guess the negative issues of having a multi-year agreement. I'm wondering what's the rationale for the positive case of having a multi-year agreement, especially with our prior experience and history of doing so. What circumstances would a multi-year agreement be factored in?
CEO to the GM. GM.
Through the Lord Mayor, as I said, there's a range of already existing multi-year agreements. So if we reflect on something like Pride Fest, there was an occasion I recall when they asked for multi-year, and we felt that they could centralise more of the programming in City of Perth. So rather than build them into a lesser amount, we actually suggested that it goes to, they build on it, come back with a different program, and then we consider multi-year. And that's exactly what happened. So the Pride Fest application that was recently approved by Council as multi-year had actually already factored in improvement in programming. So Pride Fair was brought out from outside of the City of Perth boundaries to inside the City of Perth. So really it's about when we think there's value for money in the sponsorship arrangement for multiple year agreements, if that makes sense for both the proponents and also for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. So the number of applications, are we able to compare, how many applications we're getting at this time this year as opposed to this time last year? And the bucket of money would also be interesting. Is it the same bucket of money this time this round this year as it was this time last year?
Through the Lord Mayor, we can give you the detail of that in terms of where we've positioned and the applications. Because it's major events, it's been quite a changing feast. Pride Fest became into being a major event and wasn't previously. But we can give you an annual analysis. But it's, yes, the 1.6 million budget.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Councillors? Let's move on then, shall we, to 12.3. DLM, if you wanted to fire back up your previous question, you're free to, or maybe it has been answered now. And we've got impartiality from the CEO, from Councillor Gobbett, Councillor Gonsalves and Councillor Doshi, but all okay to stay in. If there are any questions, DLM.
Yes, for me, I see this as an iconic event, and the one we're talking about, which is the Lister Gallery.
Right, so sorry, we're talking about, you're specifically speaking about K, the Leicester Prize.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see this as an iconic event, and we have history and we know what the answers would be, surely from previous contacts with this group. And how do we overcome problems like this where someone has actually made a mistake? Because I believe we're not penalising the Leicester Gallery, we're penalising the people of the City of Perth by not allowing this to go ahead in a full and proper manner.
CEO?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. If I understood correctly, I think it's not, unlike some other examples we might reflect on, this is an application that wasn't of substance sufficient that it could be rated any higher. So out of the 11 applications, it has been rated the lowest. I think I heard the CEO suggest that possibly insufficient attention was given to really promote and provide sufficient information for the panel to have come up with any other conclusion. I think that's a very different outcome to have then forgotten to have submitted an application or some other extenuating circumstance which might give cause to revisit an application. In this instance, lowest rated, insufficient information and some significant changes to how it's being delivered with the venue, which possibly wasn't also explained sufficiently for the panel to have done anything but to make the assessment they made.
With all due respect, CEO, we've been giving these people a large sum of money since 2017, and all of a sudden we've slashed it because, as it says in the notes here, that the application was incorrect, insufficient, not enough information. Surely we knew that the money we've been giving them for the last 7 years or 6 years came with good support, and we've supported them. Does that make the last 6 years wrong because they've made a mistake in their application this year? Surely there's a history there that these people are bona fide deserving our support, and we're not helping them now because they failed the exam of the application. I just see that as a penalty to the people of the City of Perth.
Was there a question there? Well, there was a question there.
Yeah, there was, just.
Yes, yes. So, CEO, have a go at answering that question, please.
Thank you very much. And I suppose I can only suggest that there are 11 applications here, all very compelling, I'm certain. The criteria that we follow is fair and equitable to each. Again, the panel has made this decision. It is well within the authority of council to change that, and that would have a reallocation of funds. So if council decide that the Leicester Prize is more deserving than another submission, you can make an amendment.
Okay, well, I'll ask then, who will you take the money off then? Which event will you take the money off if you have to, if council asks you to reconsider that?
Again, we have put up our recommendations, having gone through a rigorous, fair and equitable process, so the decision would need to be made by council.
Okay. Can I ask one more, DLM, and then back to you?
Yes.
CEO, through you to the GM, I think, but we heard about the $15 and the $10 and that sort of mind-boggling situation where the art gallery is no longer supporting the Leicester Art Prize. Just let that sink in for a moment. Did that come into, because we've heard that the fact that people were paying rather than it being a free event was a consideration. Was that part of the reason for why the funding was lowered?
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor. Certainly in terms of the assessment process that the CEO has outlined, that was undertaken by the assessment panel. And yes, certainly the new ticketed approach was noted in their comments. It is also important to note that we're working within the budget that's been set for this whole program. So because this was the lowest scoring application at that point in time, having gone through all of the value recommendations in terms of sponsorship amounts for all of the higher ranked applications, there was only $20,000 remaining in this budget. So I can't guess what that answer might have been if there was a different budget figure or the like, but certainly acknowledge that we go through it based in terms of what's the sponsorship values for those highest rating ones. And when we got to the last one, which was this application, there was only $20,000 remaining. So that's something to take into consideration.
Just to be clear on that, though, do they get a lower score because we looked at it and says, oh, you're charging now. You've never charged before. We like free events in the city. Now you're charging, so you're getting a lower score. And now we've sort of learnt why they were charging, although they could have gone to another venue where they had it for free.
Certainly, I think that is an impact, and it impacts visitation. And in terms of the value for our community, a free event is certainly more highly valued in terms of sponsorship than a ticketed event. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I think DLM, back to you.
If I may.
Sure, of course.
Do we have funds that are set aside for problems like this, where we see needy and genuine events that we can support, and we're short of funds, but we can go to these funds that are set aside? Or is there a different grant that we can offer that would satisfy this group of people?
Is there a spare funds account? I think the DLM is asking.
Something like that.
We understand the spirit of the question. So where might one go to get money if one was looking to top up the Leicester Prize money, I think is the spirit of the question.
I want to suggest that the allocation that council make every year for these grants is set because there is a finite budget, and ultimately if every deserving applicant you want to top up, I think we will very quickly find our solid financial credentials eroded. But maybe if I could invite the General Manager, Community Development, to answer more specifically.
Thank you, through the Lord Mayor. It's similar to last month when we had the business improvement grants and we had very worthy applicants and proponents, and again we referred back to the budget that was possible. We are, in our sponsorship policy, only able to make one sponsorship recommendation per se, so there aren't other ways to effectively double dip into support. So the council resolution decision is effectively the quantum of sponsorship that is put forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last time, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Lord Mayor.
Many as you like, sure.
I believe in the past, I recall that we have got extra funds for items like this in years gone by.
It's not a question, I know, but that's a...
is that the fact?
Well, council, I think what the CEO will say is council can do whatever council wants. That's, well, not whatever we want, but we have a vote in here, and 5-4, the ultimate democracy, as I love saying, if it gets up, it gets up. But the impact, I think, has been pointed out by the CEO. And one of the things we have been... one of the reasons why our reputation is restored is because of our very sound financial management. And we know, and that's, one of the reasons why I was interested in the questions, which we'll get the answer to, is same bucket of money, but more people applying. People know, come to the city, great events, people come, you'll get more people in front of your events. But if more people are applying because this is a popular place to do it, we can't just sort of keep giving out money forever either. I think the anomaly here is, though, DLM, and I get what you're saying. Previously, for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, they've got $60,000. So they might have expected that they were going to get $60,000. But I'll also say, and I think this is an important point, and I know they're not here, but they'll probably see it on the tape later. I don't think community can just expect, oh, we've always got it, so we're always going to get it. You've also got to do the work. You've got to fill out the application. You've got to come with new ideas. You've got to show us why the event is still relevant to this day and age. And I think it's an important message for everybody is that just fronting up with an event that you've done forever doesn't guarantee the same result that you've previously had either. We've got a lot of things to consider. Our city is growing. We're putting on more events all the time. Our service delivery is outstanding, and it costs money to do those things. And so one of the reasons why last week when we talk about all sorts of different imposts on our ratepayers, it's because we've set the bar right up here. And to be able to continue to deliver that standard of service and amenity and the events that we do, we have to be able to provide for them. If we keep dipping in here or there, or if others keep dipping into our money, then how are we going to do that? I know there's a lot to consider in this, and we want to make everybody happy, and we pride ourselves on being the events capital of the state, and we are, proudly. But it's hard. You can't give everybody everything, can you? That's just how it goes. Councillor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And trying to understand that the city is providing a fair and equitable process for everyone, is it listed anywhere on our sponsorship website or in any of the guidelines or the policy that prospective applicants should meet with the city to understand the process and the required documentation before they lodge their application?
CEO.
I'll ask the General Manager Community Development to talk about the specifics as far as where it is articulated, but we are all aware that city officers talk to proponents before programs are open and after. But more specifically, if I could invite the General Manager Community Development to provide some more information, please.
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor, yes, both in terms of the guidelines and the website, potential applicants are encouraged to speak to our sponsorship team first and foremost. And there is a lot of time spent with proponents talking them through the best options and the application process.
Yeah. Thanks, GM. It's probably worth just reflecting on the previous point from DLM. Perhaps, CEO, given it might be a live consideration from councillors, and I think we're hearing that, okay, running through people's minds, and fair enough, perhaps we could further delve into potential implications or otherwise?
If I could invite our CFO to make some observations about obviously the broader risks, but equally where in the past, I don't recall where we have drawn down, but I'm a bit vague on this, so if I could invite the CFO to respond.
Thank you very much. Just prefacing the remarks by just acknowledging that the earlier commentary from both the CEO and the Lord Mayor, I think, eloquently communicated the risks of feeling that we need to acquiesce to any requests that come forward, because, as was pointed out, our prudent financial management is based around making sure that the finite resources are best distributed. In terms of whether this has been done once before, I can recall a previous round, and I think it might have been a business improvement grants round where a councillor moved an amendment to have some larger volumes of money paid than what was actually allocated. That particular piece of work actually, unfortunately, came along the lines of recommend we provide that funding, and the CEO and the CFO need to go and find it. If I may, I would respectfully suggest that that's probably not the best approach for us to do. I think, as was indicated, it really is a council decision.
Thank you, CFO. There's just I saw the GM with a hand up. So, GM, just on that point.
Yes, thank you, through you, Lord Mayor. If I can add to that, certainly in the past, I can't remember if it was like 2 years ago or when, there was, I recall, an amendment to include some in-kind additional, but that in-kind still meant we had to find money for it, which was an outcome of it. What I will say is we've strengthened the process. So this round of funding for our sponsorship and grant programs came to council for consideration of what the budget amounts were going to be for what we were going to advertise and noting how competitive those rounds are getting. So this year's programs were put forward to council to clarify for the first time exactly what was the budget program in addition to the budget process. So we are trying to strengthen that because we are mindful there are entities like Leicester that may not get, for example, state funding or the like. So we are mindful of working out what is the best budget and then trying to let all the applicants know that they are competitive rounds and encourage them to seek as much sponsorship support from as many avenues as possible.
Thanks, GM. DLM.
Lord Mayor, if I may, am I correct that I remember that the RSL made errors in their application and we accommodated them and gave them money as well?
Well, yes. I don't think they made an error. They didn't put one in. Yeah, that's right. A bit different. The application was unbelievable, just they didn't put it in.
Through the Lord Mayor, could I just clarify that wasn't dealt with through the sponsorship program because they missed the deadline, so it was not dealt with as a sponsorship program. Thank you.
DLM? No. We like the passion. Councillor Coe.
Yeah, sorry. I'll just ask two questions. This bucket of money, I've been trying to look back the past budget papers to find out exactly how much we allocated for that in the last financial year, 2022-2023. That's one. The other question I got is, because the applications are now increasing, is it worthwhile actually increasing this budget?
In future years, yeah. GM?
Through the Lord Mayor, yes, we anticipate that every year we'll need to consider what are the programs that we want to progress with and what is the budget allocation. As we've noted in the item, this budget for this program is $800,000, and we've also noted that because of multi-year budgets or multi-year commitments, 200,000 of that 800 was already committed to. So effectively, we had 600,000 for these considerations of these competitive applications.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Remembering the CFO's famous scales at one of our early gatherings, when if we're giving more away, we've got to get more in, or we're not going to spend it in other areas. So that's the discretionary balancing act of local government decision makers. That's what we've got before us. Future iterations of council may decide that the free parking initiative is something they don't want, and then there's money to increase here. But they're the decisions that we've already considered ourselves, and that's what every council has to consider every year. If you're going to spend more here, where are we going to get it? Or are we going to spend less somewhere else to be able to do it?
Can I just ask the question, Lord Mayor? How does $40,000 sit against our annual budget and turnover?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
As a percentage?
There's no chance the CEO knows that off the top of her head. So let's go to the CFO.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think the answer is self-evident. The city's budget's $300 million.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on then to 12 point... yes, Councillor Johnson.
Just wanted to ask through the Lord Mayor, in that scenario with the RSL, was it considered around the reputational damage and risk factors where we're not supporting a community organisation, and would that be considered for any of these applicants?
Yeah. Well, I can speak from experience there. So that was, as the GM pointed out, it was a separate process because it wasn't from the sponsorship area, but Anzac Day is Anzac Day. So I remember the decision that we had in the chamber was, do we support Anzac Day at the City of Perth, or do we choose not to support Anzac Day because they didn't put their application in on time? And we chose to support Anzac Day. Yeah.
Just a final question. So I take that, just to clarify, that we do consider risk as part of...
Well, the decision-making process on that occasion, it wasn't a grant. It wasn't from the grant or sponsorship area, but the decision before us was, what do we think we want to do. And council voted, from memory, 8-1 or 7-2 in favour. It was at least 7-2, but I think maybe 8-1 in favour of supporting Anzac Day. I don't think it was special, was it? We'll get all those details. Yeah. But Anzac Day went ahead and was a triumph.
And just a final question, just on the budgetary processes. It was mentioned through the Lord Mayor that there's a strengthening of kind of meeting or clarifying expectations in terms of budgets. I'm wondering, are we judging these budgets based on need, or are we looking at also the economic impact and outcomes delivered? Because it sounds like we're chasing our tail if the need for these grants are constantly more than what we're budgeting. Are we looking at what the impact that these... So obviously if there's...
Can I just jump in though and say, remember, councillor, we're the ones that approve it. Us. So whatever the budget is, we've approved. We decided that was the right amount. So we did it. The 9 people that are here. So we own it. We own that decision. And next year we get the chance to have input on the next budget amount in that area.
I guess the question is, can we look at what the impact on increasing that budget? So obviously if there's an increase in the budget, we can see whether we get the value for money in providing that economic impact.
Well, and that's certainly something that could go into the decision-making process for next year's budget, I'm sure.
At the end, through the Lord Mayor, at the end of these grants allocations, there is acquittal programs. So actually, in particularly the major events category, they do a very comprehensive acquittal process. So we have all of that data available on impact and so on. And I suppose if I could just, one other part of the question, appreciating the Anzac Day was not a grant or sponsorship, but we established the criteria before as to what it is you're going to be evaluated on. And therein lies the risk. If halfway through a process a council decides they're going to change the rules, that is a risk. It's a risk not only financially, but there is a reputational risk as well. Because for all of the other compelling arguments that were put forward this evening around insufficient funding, then how would you fund those same people? So I just see that the whole process treats every one of the applicants the same, which means then the decision is made with that as the basis. I think once you start selecting, it can get very, very complicated. You set precedents and you run the risk of reputational damage for the council.
It was December 2022, the Anzac Day vote, and I didn't recall correctly, it was unanimous. So not 8-1, but unanimous. Just for the record. Okay. 12.4, Economic Development Sponsorship Program, West Australian Newspapers Limited. If there is any questions here, I will be leaving the chamber. Or should I, in fact, leave the chamber anyway? Oh, only if there are questions. Okay. Are there any questions? Lord Mayor stays, and over we go. 13, Infrastructure and Operations Alliance reports, none tonight, and 14, Commercial Services Alliance reports, none of those. 15 is Corporate Services reports. 15.1 is the interim monthly financial statements for June 24. Do we have any questions, councillors? 15.2, Schedule of Accounts paid June 2024. Councillors? 16 is the Chief Executive Officer report. 16.1 is Catalina Regional Council appointment of City of Perth member. I have a question. How will we appoint our member, please, CEO?
If I could invite our governance manager to just summarise the process that we will follow, similar to the previous process, or exactly the same actually. So if I could invite that comment, thank you.
Through you, Lord Mayor. The process will be exactly the same way we did it following the 2023 ordinary election. Elected members will nominate at the council meeting if there is a sole nominee, that name will be included into the resolution for council to decide. If there is more than one nominee, we will draw lots and insert the first name out of the hat.
So it's not
so
a
to speak.
vote, it's a pull the name out of the hat.
Yes.
Okay.
If there's more than one.
If there's more than one. Yes. Understood. Understood. Yep. Okay.
Just a follow-up question on that. Obviously, that process was also done at that meeting, but it wasn't resolved to agree to that process. Is that will that be a different method, or will we resolve to agree to approve a drawing of lots?
CEO? Governance?
Through you, Lord Mayor, the process recommended is the process recommended by the CEO, by the administration. Council are just determining the outcome.
Okay.
I guess still not getting some clarification there around if there is a drawing of a lots, will there be a further resolution required of council?
Governance?
Through you, Lord Mayor. Yes, so the name drawn will be included into the resolution where there's a blank, and then council will determine the outcome.
Right. So Councillor Smith gets drawn out. Councillor Smith goes into the resolution. The resolution goes forward to council. Council votes on that resolution. And so if they voted against it, that means that person hasn't been elevated to that position, correct?
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Was there not legal advice from Walgard that we could have approved the process in a separate motion to give effect to that drawing of the lots?
CEO?
Through you, Lord Mayor, not as I recall, no. We did get advice from Walgard that went out in a CIBN, in November last year, outlining that Walgard thought this was the proper process.
And just to clarify, but we could have a motion that resolves to accept the method of election being drawing of a lots as the final decision?
CEO to the governance.
Through you, Lord Mayor, this is an appointment, this isn't an election. This is just an appointment to an external body.
Yeah. If there is more than one member, that the drawing of the lots is accepted as the final resolution.
Well, it comes, that name goes in. It's what I outlined, I think. So the name goes in. Well, go on, CEO. You got something else?
Sorry, I'm just wondering if I have this correct. So at the minute, the question correct, at the minute it goes into the lot, you pull a name out, then council vote on that person being appointed. I'm wondering if the councillor is actually saying, rather than the voting, can you have the pulling out of the name be the final decision, that there isn't a vote about whether you want that particular candidate, rather it's a vote that you will support that candidate. So rather than voting for the candidate, you're voting the support of the candidate through the process.
I'm not certain that was the councillor's question, but the councillor can answer. He's right over there.
And the councillor's suggesting that's right. So I understand the point.
Okay.
So
Understand the point.
that's the question.
But, and yes.
Through you, Lord Mayor, that you still would need to make a resolution of council to determine that final name. You couldn't know that name prior to council, so there would still need to be a decision. So if you could agree to use a particular process, but then you would still need to amend that decision to include that person's name. So effectively, you'll have to write a new recommendation.
Yes, CEO.
Sorry, but is then, if it is the process where, so yes, you amend the decision. However, if a name is drawn out, can you compel council to agree to that person, or does it have to be through a vote?
Through you,
Sorry,
Lord Mayor, sorry. I can certainly seek some advice on that just to be sure.
And just a follow-up question, could we also seek advice as to whether other councils have encountered this situation, which I believe is likely, and their method, which I will suggest has been to agree to what the process is first, and then ultimately accept that process, that drawing of the lots as the final determination.
That's why I asked the question, actually, CEO, because I didn't want to have it play out like this next week. So what's the answer to Councillor Gonsalves' question, please? Sure, the CEO.
So I think Councillor Gonsalves has actually asked for further advice to clarify, does approval of the process need to occur by council in the first instance? And the second question is, can you compel council to accept whoever is drawn out of the lot as being the person who will be referred? And to governance's point, it's not an election, so to speak, so it's slightly different. On both of those questions, we will take them on notice and get further advice.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Doshi has a hand up.
Thank you, through you, Lord Mayor. Just to simplify it, would it be possible to ask the question, if there's more than one person who puts themselves forward, it just goes to a vote and the other councillors decide on who they would prefer? Would that not be easier and less complicated?
Well, yes, but that's a different process, and that's not the process. I'm not sure why that's not the process, by the way. A logical person walking in off the street would go, oh, yeah, there's a spot, someone's going to put... But that's not the process, correct, Governance?
Through you, Lord Mayor, the reason we use this process is because we usually use this process at the same time that we're using the electoral process for committees. So to make it less confusing, if we're doing two at once, that's the way we do it. But council or the CEO could certainly determine an alternate process.
Yep.
Get some advice there, whether my understanding is that process of drawing the lots was from the Local Government Act itself, and that's why it follows through to our standing orders.
Through you, Lord Mayor, that was the final process of the Local Government Act following an election where there was a tied vote.
Okay, so we're going to get some more clarity on that. Is that correct? And DLM and then Councillor Coe?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I would do we need to make a motion that we simply vote on this position and we take a winner from there, which makes it, I seem to think this would be a fairer way of doing things.
So how would that happen though then? So then, let's say hypothetically, three people nominate.
Yes.
And then what happens? We have a vote like we do for DLM.
And we have preferences.
Why would we have preferences though?
To come to a winner.
Yeah, but why are we doing that when we've got a process that'll give us the winner straight away? You go, bang.
Well, it just simply seems to me that a vote would be a simpler way of doing it rather than pulling a name out of a hat. If you've got two nominations, then put it to a vote to the rest of council. That's how we deal with most things. We don't pull things out of hats normally.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but that isn't... I get what you're saying, but that isn't the process. The process is, if there's more than one, names come out, that name then gets inserted into the motion gets done and we vote on it. So it actually is pretty simple. It'll take 2 seconds, won't it? Otherwise we're voting... I don't know when we vote, by the way. When do we vote? We vote in here, do we? How would we do that? But we'd need a motion to get to where DLM's suggesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Councillor Coe?
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I'm just going through this again, and I'm actually the deputy for Catalina, just saying you guys know. So according to this is that the presiding member needs to be elected by the council members, but also here it says in the absence of the presiding member, the deputy presiding member will assume the chair. So is this... So so if we're electing...
That's of the committee, isn't it?
Committee?
Yeah.
Okay. It's considered its own council. Its own council. Okay. All right. So, but then how does my role fit in? Am I still going to be deputy if we elect the member up?
Excellent question.
Through you, Lord Mayor, if you were to nominate to stand as the main member, the primary member, we would then fill the spot for the, and you were successful, we would then go again to fill the spot for the deputy member. But you otherwise would just stay where you are. You were appointed to that committee for 2 years.
Could we also, I'm wondering whether we could get advice as to whether the deputy member assumes that role as the main member in the ordinary absence of that main member.
This
which
isn't
is
an
now
this
occurring.
isn't an ordinary absence, and governance is saying, and you can say it.
Through you, Lord Mayor, that doesn't happen because Councillor Coe stood as deputy and was nominated as deputy. He didn't go for the primary role.
Through the Lord Mayor, if I may, I was deputy for this board as well, and I attended 2 meetings, and there is remuneration for this, and I received none. Not that it made any difference to me, but it could well be that Councillor Fleeton may already be paid for this this committee and will not be able to attend.
You mean going forward beyond
Yes.
beyond this time? Well, we could. I'm sure we could look into that. Yes.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, you got a note to do that. Thank you. Okay, so so we're going to get some advice and some clarity next week. But I think the clarity is that the process is what the process is at the moment. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to 16.2, Local Law Review, Dog Local Law 2011. Any questions, councillors? 17 is the committee report. 17.1 is the inquiry into the City of Perth final report. Any questions, councillors? 18, motions of which notice has been given, they'll be dealt with at the ordinary council meeting. And item 19, matters for which the meeting may be closed. Item 19.1 and 19.2 are designated confidential in accordance with section 5.232C, E and H of the Local Government Act of 1995. If any councillors have questions relating to those items, we would need to move behind closed doors and pause the live stream. Do we have any questions, councillors?
Yeah. No, I have a question. It's not confidential, and
I think the item is confidential though, so yeah, so we have.
I would preface that with.
Don't ask the question, though, whatever it is. You say what you're saying, but don't ask the question.
I think it's my right to be able to ask the rationale for why this is considered confidential.
That's a different question, and yes, yes.
And I just note that that's part of the new provisions of the Local Government Act that are being working its way through Parliament. So I think that will be an automatic provision.
Yeah. So hang on.
So that's what I would like to ask.
So your question is, why is it confidential? CEO.
Correct. So we need to go behind closed doors because it is. In answering it, we will explain. So.
Yeah. Okay. So can we pause the live stream, please, and close the meeting? Let us know when live stream's back on. Rolling. We're going live to the world again. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Item 20 is urgent business, and this will be dealt with at the ordinary council meeting. And 21 is closure. There being no further business, I will now declare the agenda briefing session closed at 7:34 p.m. and thank you all for your attendance and your attention. Good evening, everybody.
Could you all please rise for the Lord Mayor, Mr Basil Zemplis?